Fantastic. I think we're live, Austin. This is amazing. So welcome everybody to the latest Joe Dale webinar. It's my absolute pleasure this evening to be talking with Austin from Speakable, who's going to be showing us all about how you can use Speakable, particularly for speaking and listening skills, and for using a bit of AI as well for some feedback. I'm really excited about Speakable. I've only had a little bit of a play with it so far, so I can't wait for us to get into the weeds and find out exactly what it can do. And I'm sure everyone in the audience watching live right now will be able to ask lots of questions. I've got my Google Doc open as per normal, so I'll be collecting those questions, and I can't wait to get started. So welcome, Austin. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into Speakable, and what are the basic things it can do, and then we can go into a lot more detail based on how it all goes.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me, Joe. I'm excited to be here. I kind of stumbled into working on Speakable. My friend Andrew, my college roommate, was teaching English as a second language in Cartagena, Colombia, and he kept having this issue of people not being able to just build the confidence they needed to start speaking the language live with other folks. So he got this idea to use speech recognition to just have folks repeat phrases and then check it. And he was working on that, and I was working with some tech startups in Silicon Valley. And slowly over time, he just kept being like, "Hey, check this out. Like, what do you think about this?" And he asked me for a little bit of help, so I reached out to some Spanish teachers. And as I started chatting with more and more Spanish teachers, I realized that there was a pretty big need for something like this in a lot of classrooms in the US and abroad, especially when you're a long distance away from native speakers or just don't have access to native speakers. So where we started originally was just having students repeat words and phrases, and it would automatically check it for them so they could get that repetition in. And as we've kind of grown over the last couple of years, we've added in some AI features. So we're using large language models now to be able to provide feedback and to grade automatically free responses. So that's kind of the quick story and overview.
That's fantastic. That's what I'm really excited about, the sort of the feedback and the responses and how it can all be used, and the way that you can incorporate images as well and what have you. So I think what we'll do now, if it's okay, is I will turn off my video and my microphone. If you can share your screen, Austin, if that's okay, and then you can give us a walkthrough of Speakable, because I would imagine, well, I'd love to know in the chat how many people have seen Speakable before, or whether this is the first time. So I'm sure you're excited. I'm definitely excited. So let us know in the chat. I'll turn off the video now, and I'll be here the whole time checking the chat, and I can put questions to Austin when they come up. So so let's go for it. Fantastic. So I'll just turn off my video and mute my microphone as well. Over to you, Austin.
Okay, let's dive in here. Okay, we'll give this 1 minute to load here. Hopefully it will start coming through. Let's see.
So we can see your screen absolutely fine, looking good.
You can see it? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start on the landing page here, and everyone can create a free account. So if you want to do that, just go to speakable.io, come down to the bottom here and click Get Started. And it'll ask you a little bit of information about the languages you teach and in your students' native languages. And then you'll be into the software. And we're going to dive right in. So we'll kind of walk through this demonstration. First, we'll take a look at how to create and assign activities, how to set up classrooms, some of the collaboration features, and we'll wrap things up with taking a look at the classroom's assignment results and how the grading works in here. So let's dive right into an activity. And is everyone seeing the activity builder here, Joe? Just to make sure that
Yeah, all good. So it says lesson 2, jobs and professions brief. So yeah, all good.
perfect. Okay. So to get here, we'll click create an activity and it'll ask for a title. You can add it to a folder and then you'll be into the activity builder. I've got a few cards already populated or pages populated in here to provide examples, but you can easily add in more pages as you see fit. And there's 4 types of pages that you can add. First is the repeat. So what we were discussing earlier, where students will see a word, they can listen to it, and then they'll repeat it back to the system and it will check it. You can do multiple choice in here, which can be handy for listening or reading comprehension. And then we have the free response here. I'm just going to quickly go through the repeat and then we'll get into those free responses. So these activities typically look something like these 3 cards. So we can simply have students, let's start this over. Simply have students repeat something here, banquero, and it will check it for them. If you want to add in images here, text, videos, you have the ability to add in lots of media where necessary to help provide more context. If you say this incorrectly, ¿cómo estás? You'll simply just try again until you get it correct. Contable. And this is an example of how deep you can go with the media area. So we have the Spanish word for designer here, and we can add in some text to speech lines that give a little more context using the target language here.
Sorry, Austin. So we can't actually hear the audio of that. I don't know if you can hear at your end, but in StreamYard, do you need to share your audio? Is that how it works?
That might be the case. 1 second.
So we could hear your microphone when you were recording your response, but we can't hear the audio when you're playing it back. That's all.
Oh no, the only sound was my my Spanish. Okay.
I mean, I think people get the idea, but it'd be nice if we could hear it live. That'd be great if that's possible.
Yeah.
So essentially, for those people watching, presumably what you're showing us now is how to make multimedia flashcards. Is that right? Whereby you can hear the audio and then you can then repeat the audio and then the AI will give you feedback on your pronunciation. Presumably you can have more than just individual words. You could have, let's say, a sentence, for example. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
You can use a word, a phrase, a full sentence. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading the instructions on share audio. Okay. Okay, let's try this really quick.
Ser una tarjeta de cumpleaños para tu amigo.
Can folks hear that?
Yeah, that's perfect now. That's great. And I can see that Sergio in the chat has said it works better with sentences, actually. That's great, Sergio. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. It's looking for some kind of context, and it's not necessarily looking for perfect pronunciation. The system is just trying to understand students like a person would be if you were speaking the language with them. And it really struggles with like single syllables or times when there isn't a lot of context. So it's typically best to have a word, phrase, or a full sentence in there. Okay. Now let's go back into the builder here. I'm going to show a couple of examples of the free response now as well. You can very simply put in a prompt here and have students respond to that either with speaking or writing. You'll have some features for determining how you want it to be auto-graded and what kind of feedback you want students to get. The feedback options are grammar insights, so it's going to break down the student's grammar and offer feedback on that. It can give a suggested response, and then the ACTFL level here. And then you can choose whether or not you want the AI's feedback language to be in Spanish or in English. And the auto grading, you have a couple of options. You can use pass-fail, or you can use a rubric. So with pass-fail, you simply put a prompt in here that you want the AI to grade based off of, and it will immediately score the student's response based on that. And if you want to use a rubric, you can add a rubric in here and create custom rubrics. So to see all of this in action, let's open up this one here. Okay, so this would be an example of a listening comprehension and a speaking task combined together. So here we have a video, and then we're going to have a free response action, and the prompt is related to the video. So we're asking, what did he want to be when he grew up?
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Muy bien, con mucho trabajo, pero es...
And so in this introduction, he shares what he would like to be when he grows up. And we can give this a try and take a look at the feedback here. Él, cuando era un niño, quería un médico porque él le gusta ayudar gentes. So I apologize to any Spanish native speakers out there whose ears are ringing, but this will give kind of a good example for kind of stretching your level. So that was a little bit difficult for my level of Spanish at the moment. Uh-oh. The audio might be blocking the response here. Okay. Sometimes when we share the audio, it interacts with this. So let's give this another try here. Quiero trabajar en una oficina. So when we save our answer, the AI is going to process this response, and it's going to create feedback for the student. And at the same time, it's going to log this in your gradebook. So here we were using a rubric, and we were having the feedback given in the target language. So you can see a breakdown of feedback for the rubric. We can see the response here and then a suggested response. And if it came up with any grammar insights, it would highlight them here.
So presumably what's happening here is the audio is being transcribed and then run through the AI, which then gives feedback. Is that right?
Correct. It's going to transcribe that feedback or that recording, and it's going to take all the context that it has. So let's see if we can reset this here. and get back into the builder. So in the case of this one, where we had a block on it, but what it's doing here is attaching context. So we've looked at the video and what's in this media area here, and we've added in the context for that. And then we've told the AI the prompt, and then we have the student recording and the auto grading. It brings all of that together to create the feedback. Are there any other questions coming up, Jill?
There are. There's so one of the attendees is finding it difficult to create an account, whereas another person is doing that no problem at all. So the issue is, one person is saying that when they try to set up an account, it's asking for the name of the school, but then it says that the school is not appearing. And then Sergio is very kindly suggesting that you don't need to put in the name of the school, but that's still causing a problem for the same person. Any advice on that? I mean, do you have to write in the name of the school, or what would you advise if it's coming up as the school not existing, or that you can't create an account?
You should be able to create one without typing in a school, but if you can't, you can just choose a random school. It's not going to like accidentally give you any permissions within that school or anything like that. So, if necessary, just choose the first one that comes up there, and hopefully you'll be able to get through it.
Fantastic. Oh, I see Lisa's asking, do you anticipate that you will have conversational agents at some points?
Yes, we're working on something that Sergio actually here in the chat is spearheading.
Cool.
That allow for interactive back and forth conversations.
Excellent. So this, in a way, is more of a tool that, say, you would use at home for independent practice. Maybe. What do you think? What's the context in which you would see students using this?
Well, I think you could kind of picture it in like helping students overcome different hurdles. So if you're just brand new to a language and you're learning it for the first time, or you're just getting used to the sound and the script of the language, that's where those repeat cards really come in and are helpful. A lot of students, some will catch on really easily to the sound, and the language will start becoming comprehensible to them fairly quickly, while others will just be kind of deaf to certain sounds. So at the beginning of your learning journey, those repeat cards can be really helpful just to make sure that everyone has interaction. And when you slow down and just listen to the word over again and then have to repeat it and say it, it forces you to start listening for certain sounds that you might not be picking up with your ear. So the repeats are really great for folks that are just getting started, and it helps students that maybe would have struggled a little bit with the sound of the language stay up to speed with their counterpoints. The free response is really designed to be flexible and can be used at any level. So if you have something simple like, a prompt that's like introduce yourself, great. You can have them just introduce themselves in their target language, and it'll give feedback appropriate to that level. And it'll also say, if you just say, hi, my name is Austin, it'll say, hey, you could do a little better by adding in this. So for students that are doing pretty well, but could go up the next level, it'll challenge them to add a little more context in if they want to. But you can also go as far as saying, hey, do a 2-minute presentation on a certain event in history in your target language. And it will be able to process that response and give feedback on the response as it pertains to the prompt and on the grammar itself. So it can be,
yeah, that's right. So just to check then, you could use it with, say, beginners up to, say, intermediate or beyond. I'm just thinking particularly in relation to the context in England with a new GCSE exam for languages. There's now a big focus on phonics, And I would have thought that this would be a very useful tool for helping students to individually practice the sounds of the language, as you say, with, say, words, individual words, or words in context in a sentence, practicing a certain phonic. I think that would be very useful.
Mm-hmm. And I'll show one more feature on the repeat portion of it. The students do have the ability to click on a word
Como.
and then see it broken down into syllables,
Great.
Mo.
which can really help. This can be challenging, quite challenging for some students, but you can adjust the speed of it if necessary, hear the word in a different voice if you'd like.
Hola, mi nombre es Lupe. Seré la narradora de esta tarea. Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Estás?
And so when this is transcribing, it'll give you an indication of kind of like, where it's not hearing you, and then you can hone in on those specific areas in what they sound like.
That's fantastic. We've had the question from Lisa in the chat about, has there been any research around, the like an evidence-based approach to using Speakable? I know there has been around the use of flashcards, but have you asked anyone to drill down into the research behind, pedagogically speaking, why this sort of approach is particularly effective?
We haven't worked with someone to publish an official study on the data. We're still a fairly young organization, so we get a lot of feedback from teachers, and in some cases, when we're working with schools where we can see the metadata for their classrooms, you can see progress happening, but we don't have anything that's official or published yet.
Fair enough. I mean, I think it's wonderful the way in which you can have individual practice and students can work at their own pace, and particularly around speaking and listening skills, which can be more of a challenging skill to practice asynchronously at home, for example. I think that's fantastic. We had another question around, unsurprisingly, Samia is asking about how much of the content can be accessed for free and how much is it premium. So maybe not necessarily right now, but it'd be lovely to have an idea of what we can access straight away for free and what do we need to pay for.
Yes. Actually, I might just outline the plans right now so that
Okay.
as we cover more things, everyone has them in mind. Let's see if I can switch tabs. Okay. I'm trying to keep my audio so we can still share that. Okay. So there's 3 plans that are available. The Teacher Basic is what everyone has when they sign up and they create an account. There's a Teacher Pro plan, which is just a paid self-serve subscription that's designed to allow teachers to have access to some of the organization features. And then there's organization plans where we work with a school, a district, or some kind of educational institution to create an annual license for that organization. And the primary thing that you're going to have varying degrees of access to is going to be how much AI auto grading and how much AI instant feedback is going to be available. So with any of the plans, the pages that you're seeing inside of the builder, you can create them. You can use any of these student actions here. You can add in media as you see fit with the basic, the pro, or the organization plan. So you'll essentially have full functionality of creating things in the builder. One thing that you'll notice on the basic plan is the auto grading here is disabled for the basic plan. So the basic plan for any free responses that you're doing, your students can still do them. They just won't get the feedback immediately, and those recordings will come to your gradebook where you can then grade them and leave comments on them. With the Teacher Pro plan, you'll get access to the pass-fail grading here and auto grading. So when a student completes a free response activity, they'll get feedback immediately on how they did on that activity. And then you'll have initial auto grading done that's available in the gradebook. And then with the organization plan, that gives full access to everything on the tool. So that's probably the biggest difference. Also, the free plan, the access to spaces is limited to just being able to join a space versus create them as well. And there's a table on the pricing page here that goes into detail on what's available within each plan.
That's fantastic. So I can see it says $180 per year for the Teacher Pro account. Is that dependent on the number of students, or does it matter the number of students that would have access to Speakable?
It's per teacher, and it's up to 150 students.
Okay.
And if someone has 160 or something like that, they can just chat us and we can make exceptions. The cap on it isn't necessarily meant to penalize someone that has that's working with a lot of students. It's just to prevent abuse on those plans.
Sure. And am I right in thinking that in a free account you can upload your own vocabulary lists, or would that be a premium account?
So with the free account, you can upload vocabulary list, and you have access to the AI creator here. So that's kind of the next feature we can dive into here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So if you want to just upload a list, like if you want to pull something off of Quizlet, this import vocab list can be really nice, and you can choose to have it add in images. And what it's going to do is just create those repeat student actions for you, and it can populate images. It's kind of like I'm feeling lucky images there. So
just to clarify, sorry, we're seeing the compare plans page. Is that the right page you want to show us? Oh, there we are. Now I can see it.
I thought that was going to happen.
How do you get to that page? Can you just go over?
Yeah, let me cover that again. Sorry about that.
Because we could only see the compare plans page. But again, from an English perspective, because we have this new GCSE, we have dedicated vocabulary lists from the different exam boards, AQA and EdXL. And so the ability to be able to create customized flashcards using dedicated vocabulary would be very popular, I'm sure, in England.
Perfect. Yeah, and those lists, you can easily upload them here. Okay. And then as folks create them, if you leave your activities public, they'll show up in the Discover search. So over time, if there's a lot of folks doing that, you'll be able to just grab the list that are created by other folks.
That's excellent. We've also had the question from Lisa about where is Speakable most used? Is it the US, South America, Europe, or elsewhere? I mean, presumably the US is the main market at the moment. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We do have users all over the world. We're primarily focused, as a startup, we've just focused our efforts on the US. But there isn't a restriction on where you can use it. So we have folks in, I think, 20 or 25 different countries that are using it on some level now. And there's a lot of folks that are working in international schools that use the free version for that pronunciation practice.
That's fantastic. Lisa, who asked the question, actually said, is there a particular state that uses it in the States? Particularly, is there one particular state that power users of Speakable?
There's some states where we're kind of gaining traction a little more quickly than others. In the Northeast, around Boston, we've seen quite a bit of schools adopting it. Ohio, we're seeing a lot of adoption. Some of the core states we started working with were Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois, and then we have folks in California, Texas, some in Florida as well. So we're in quite a few states at this point, but I'd say those are the ones where it's growing the most quickly.
That's great. That's a great answer for you, Lisa, there. I don't know, Lisa, if you're from the States yourself, but great question. Okay, so should we carry on seeing all the things that we can do with Speakable?
Yes, let's dive back in. So that's using the word list. If we want to use the AI builder, we can do that as well. And I'm really excited about this because one of the things that we're really excited to be able to help with is just saving time. When I was initially starting to work with teachers, one of the things I realized was that they were just really, really strapped for time. And then grading and creating activities ended up happening on nights and weekends. So this can be a great little tool to create things rather quickly. And you can use a prompt for this, or you could upload a document and give it context. So if you have a lesson plan that's in a PDF form and you want to create a corresponding activity, you can upload it there. And it will consider that when it's creating something. But just to use a basic prompt here, let's say, so we want to give Chatty here a little bit of context. You want to let them know the level of your students. You want to let them know a topic, and then you can give some directions on how long you want it to be, and any like specific items that you think should be included. And then what Chatty's going to do here is go ahead and just create pages for us that we'll be able to review, and we can add them into the activity if we'd like.
That's really cool. I didn't know you could do that with Speakable. That's exciting. That's great.
We just added this in August, and it's been really nice. Let's see. So we'll give a little feedback and see if we can touch this up a bit. And when we're ready, we can add, and sometimes Chatty misfires here, to be patient with the chameleon. If I want to, I can just add all these in, or we could add each one. And then, of course, right now there isn't the ability to have the AI creator add media to these. So it's just creating the base student actions. But if you want to, you can go in here and add in media as you see fit. And adding in media is fairly easy. So we're integrated with Google Search here. So, or with Google Images, so you can pull in images easily. It's integrated with YouTube. So if we want to add in YouTube videos, we can pull those in. And you could upload you can embed a podcast, upload documents, and other kinds of media there. So that's the AI builder. I'll stop if there's any questions about that. There are I think there is a restriction on the number of times that free accounts can use that per day, but I haven't seen a lot of people running into them.
We don't have any questions so far, but Samir in the chat is saying great features. I couldn't agree more. That's great. I particularly like that sort of chatty option. That's really exciting. And then obviously being able to add media as well and pull it from Unsplash, a directory of royalty-free images, for example, or YouTube clips. So that makes it very versatile, doesn't it, for teachers? That's great.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of one of our core ideas is that we want to help save time. So anywhere we can, we've tried to add in the integrations to make that easier. I'm going to switch over to the gradebook now. So I'm accessing one of my classrooms here. So I went in to the classroom and then went into an assignment.
So we're seeing the chatty assistant at the moment. Is that right? Is that what we should be seeing?
Shoot. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Don't worry.
I can't promise that won't happen again.
And presumably these are made up student names. They're not real students. Is that right?
This is just folks on our team here. So
great. Great.
This is 2 versions of me. But let me just go back to how to access that. So from your classrooms, you'll see your list of assignments, and then you can click on one and then go into what we call the assignment results here. So when you're in the assignment results, you'll see the students' work here. And then you also have an overview of the content. So this gives a roll-up of what's happening on each of the pages in the assignment. So if we go into a response here, this is what it looks like. After a student submitted it, you'll come in and you'll have a view kind of like this. So this had some repeat student actions. I can see this was pretty easy for myself. This was a little harder. It took me 5 tries to say that. So there's some basic analytics that can give you an indication of whether or not these repeat cards were difficult for your students. You can also click into them and adjust the grade. So if they had a 0, they didn't complete it, but they gave it 10 tries and you want to give them points for that, you can. You can also share comments. So if you notice something or you have a little piece of a resource or something that could help them out, you can share it through the comments, and then students will get a notification about that. And then in the respond student actions, you'll see a little more data. So we have the recording here that we can listen to. And in this case, we have the transcript and the grammar insights here. So I can see one area where the AI has marked up that this might not be the correct use of this. And then it's automatically scored this as a 1. So it said, hey, this was pretty good. But as a teacher, if you want to adjust the score, you can. You have full control over this. And you can also leverage Chatty here to help come up with some feedback if you like. So Chatty will come up with feedback suggestions, or you can leave your own feedback.
Yeah, I particularly like that. I think that's really useful, particularly for, as I was saying, phonics practice, but also the new read aloud section for the new GCSE, where students have to read out, let's say, a sentence, etc., and then the teacher can then give feedback. And that's something which would be difficult to practice in class easily, but the students could record at home, and then the teacher could then either manually give feedback, or if they have the AI feedback option enabled, they could let the AI give feedback, and then, as you say, edit the response as required. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And one of the nice things you mentioned doing this at home, a lot of teachers will do these in the classroom, and they'll have students spread out, or they'll find some way to have them go to another room that's bigger where they can kind of spread out and do them. But they'll also assign them as homework. And one of the really nice things about this is your students that are more introverted like myself, like you can build up your confidence on your own in a more comfortable space before you're using your target language around other folks. So it is really helpful for accommodating students that are maybe a little more shy in class. And then within this, I'll also point out the multiple choice. So again, you can adjust the scores here and leave comments on those. I'll show one example of what it looks like if you use a rubric. It's going to be a little more detailed grading experience. Let's see here.
While you're getting that set up, Austin, we've had a really interesting question from Glenn, which is, can the activities created by Speakable be created for students at a beginner, intermediate, and or advanced level? In other words, the same activity, but then differentiated. Is that possible, or would you have to create each one manually?
As in the assignment would be assigned to, it would be one class of students, but you have varying degrees.
Exactly, yeah.
One of the really nice things about the Respond is that it tailors the feedback to the student's response. So you're going to have some kind of difficulty in mind when you're creating the activity and determining what the prompts are. But if you take a prompt like this one, describe your family, who are the members and who's in it. A student that maybe is just a beginner can say, tengo tres hermanos, and that's all they can do. The feedback that it's going to say, okay, great, you answered the question, you didn't provide what they do. Here's kind of the next step. So you have 3 brothers, and tell me where they work, or something like that. So it will tailor the feedback based on the student's response, and typically it tries to just help them up one level. In terms of like designing the activity to like dynamically display different prompts, you can't do that currently, but within the Respond feedback, it does work quite well for giving the personalized feedback based on where students are.
Yeah, that's really clear. Thank you. That's really helpful. Great question from Glenn as well. Thank you, Glenn.
And I'll show these grammar insights. So these are available to students, and this is one of those things that can be really useful. So if a student's fairly fluent, but they're not necessarily using totally accurate language or grammar, this can be a really nice way to help those students get feedback on that area that they can improve in. And it can also work in kind of that scaffolded fashion of feedback that's relevant to the student. So it's just marking up their transcript and giving some suggestions on how the grammar could be improved here. And the other thing we're looking at here is an activity where we've used a rubric. So for this rubric, we've automatically scored it here with the system, and then provided explanations, which you can edit. But the students are seeing that as well. So they're getting an idea of where they're at as compared to this rubric, and you'll see those results as well to help you score the homework faster.
And sorry if you've said this already, but can you give us an idea how to add a rubric or create the rubric within Speakable? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's jump back to that.
I just think people want to see sort of each step by step, if that's okay. It's lovely to see the outcomes, but I think people want to see the beginning steps as well, if that's all right.
No worries. I'm a little rusty on my demonstrations here, Joe, to be honest with you. I haven't done one all summer, so.
You're doing a great job. We're all the same. Don't worry.
Feel free to guide me.
All good.
Okay, let's pop in and look at a rubric. So in your free response here, you'll have your auto grading tab. And this is only available on the organization plan currently. But you'll see the rubric. So if you switch this from pass fail, and by default, it's going to be on pass-fail. Most of the time, pass-fail is going to work just fine. But in certain situations, assessments or longer responses are things where you want to give a richer set of feedback and have it scored more thoroughly. The rubrics work really well. And we have some standardized rubrics that will be in your library, but of course you can create your own rubrics. And there's a builder, so you can create this from scratch. You'll just put in the different items that you want in there and set the levels for it. Or there is also an AI rubric generator. So and it's decently good at pulling information that's public. So if standards or certain rubrics are published and very much publicly available, it can typically access that and then design a rubric based on that. And then, of course, you can go in and add more items if you want, or adjust these. And then when you have a rubric, you can apply it to the card in question, or you can set it as your default or apply to all of them. There. So that's the rubric creator. I'm going to cover really quickly how to set up a classroom, but are there any other questions on the AI stuff before we move on?
There aren't any other questions, but I think it'd be really useful to see how you set up a classroom. I was wondering as well, you showed the example whereby you tried 5 times to answer a question. How does the AI assess the pronunciation? Well, the reason I asked that question is because I'm wondering if the AI is transcribing the audio and then giving feedback on the text, if you like, how is it actually testing the pronunciation, if that makes sense? I just wondered, maybe there's something else that the tool is doing that I'm not aware of.
I wouldn't recommend using it for like pronunciation assessment unless you're going to review the recording yourself. Because you're right, Joe, it is creating a transcript, and the transcript is fairly lenient. It's pretty decent at understanding what you said or what you intended to say. So sometimes it can be forgiving.
Got it. That's really helpful. It's just so it's really sort of testing your grammar or your sentence structure as opposed to your actual pronunciation. So the AI is transcribing and then giving feedback as opposed to actually analyzing the audio for effectiveness. It's actually it's basing all of that on the transcription. That's fine. I was just wondering. That's great.
Yeah, that's an important detail. And the repeat cards are doing something similar where they're transcribing your speech and then they're comparing with what you've entered in there. So some things it's difficult to transcribe, and you'll see that they don't work very well. Most things it works pretty well. But what it kind of creates is a theme across the platform of working towards developing communication skills and having the ability to fail over and over again. But I would say if you're focusing on helping with an accent, it's not going to be super helpful for helping students hone their accent, other than they can hear a lot of the target language, but the feedback itself won't be specific.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's very, very effective in what it does, in the way it's transcribing. Absolutely. And that whole, as you say, that whole motivation that you get from that individual practice the students can do in class, as you said, or at home, that's wonderful. And that gives them real agency. So I think for speaking and listening skills, this is great. It's not actually giving you sort of feedback on the pronunciation per se. It's more on the grammar, isn't it? I think that was the only point I wanted to make. That's great. I can see as well, Emily has just joined us, and she's asking about the recording. So just to clarify with everyone, what we're going to do is once we finish, Austin's going to send me the recording of the session, and then I will then publish it on my YouTube channel, which is available at Joe Dale. So it's just youtube.com/@JoeDale, and you'll be able to access that as soon as it's ready, which probably will be tomorrow morning now, as it's quite late in the UK already. So you'll be able to watch the whole thing back later, Emily and everyone else live right now. Okay, let's carry on with the creating your classroom, Austin. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll pop into the classrooms here. And when you come in here, you'll just be prompted to create a classroom. There's 3 default options here: Google Classroom, Clever, and using a join link. I don't know how popular Google Classroom is in your neck of the woods, but if you use this, you're able to just pull in any sections and sync them directly with that tool. We have some other LMS integrations that happen at the organization level that you can find on our integrations page. But let's say we just want to create a basic join link classroom here.
I think the big 2 are Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. So if you had a Microsoft Teams, if that's what you were using, presumably you would click the link option that you just showed us. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so we'll make a quick classroom here, and then you'll have the ability to copy this join link and then share it with your students. And their experience, sorry, my battery's dying. Give me 1 second here. And so students will click on that link and they'll just go through a quick account creation process. And that will look something like this. So they'll land on this page. They'll click join course. And in this case, I already have an account, so it's just logging me right in. But if they don't have an account, they'll just enter an email and create a password. And then they'll be able to get into the classroom and access any assignments.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So we could see the Spanish My Assignments submitted, etc. And then can you give us an idea how easy it is to onboard students into the classroom?
Mm-hmm. So if you're using Google Classroom or Clever, when you sync that section, it's going to bring all the students in and they're going to have their accounts created. So if you're using Google Classroom, your students can just hit login with Google. They'll be on that screen with their classes. And if you're using a join link, you'll just share this join link with them, and then they'll be able to access it. Sorry, Joe, give me 1 second.
Yeah, don't worry, that's fine. So I was saying in the chat, I don't know of another tool essentially that has the features that we're seeing here. So it's really, really exciting. It's fantastic. When you're ready, Austin, it'd be lovely to get an idea of how easy it is to share an assignment that you've created via the classroom, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And then once we're creating assignments, you can, of course, do this from the builder, or you can just open up one of your activities. You'll assign the activity, select the relevant classrooms. There are 2 separate types of assignments. There's a practice and an assessment type. With the practice, it's going to be your formative assessment where students are moving through the assignment. They're getting feedback immediately on their responses, and they're going to be able to go back and try them again. and improve their responses. With the assessment, the results are going to be sent to you to review as the educator before the students see the feedback or the scores themselves. And you can choose to have a preliminary score shown to students after they submit the entire assignment. So when we schedule this, you can put a start and a due date on each of these, or just create the assignment, and then you'll have a link for each activity that you can share with students.
That's great. And can you set a deadline for the activity to be completed, say a week, for example?
Mm-hmm. In that screen we just went past, you could have put a due date on there, but if you didn't and you still wanted to, you just go into your assignment results page here, click the little edit button, and we can add a due date.
That's great. I really like the way in which you can choose as a teacher to show the students the feedback, but they can get some limited feedback straight away off the bat. But you're in control basically as the teacher, and you can choose whether you show the students the feedback or not. That's really useful, I think.
Mm-hmm. And we have a number of different use cases that come up. The most common way that Speakable is used is simply for practice, with the core concept being we just want students to have an opportunity to hear the language, use the language. If they make mistakes, that's okay. We want them to be able to try again and improve their responses as much as they'd like to. And that's by and far the primary way that Speakable is used. But there are some other use cases that have come up recently for just doing exam prep. Some of the high stakes exams can be really nerve-wracking. And so we see teachers that are creating a simulation of that exam in Speakable. And maybe they're just giving the feedback after the assignment submitted. But they're trying to create a scenario where it's going to feel comfortable, or it's going to feel similar to the exam, so they can start to get comfortable with that format. And some teachers will use it for regular interval like quizzes as well.
Yeah, that's great. I was thinking as well for the new GCSE, there's the photo card activity whereby the students will see one or two pictures based on which exam board they're doing. So you could use the media option within Speakable, and then they could then record their voice describing the different images, and then that audio can be transcribed, shared with the teacher. They can receive feedback, etc. I think that would be another nice use case in an English context.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Are there any other features you wanted to show us, Austin, at this point?
I'll cover two really quickly. I meant to get to those.
Of course. Yeah. Take your time. It's great.
They're pretty straightforward and pretty intuitive. The first is the Discover Library. So, like a lot of other platforms, teachers do make their activities public here, and so it creates a database of activities that you can search and use with your students. And these can be either copied and edited, or you can just assign someone else's activity to one of your classrooms. And there's a few filters you can use here. You can change the language and see some of the more popular ones. There is also a collaboration feature here called Spaces. And this allows you to create basically a group on Speakable where you can have a shared library of activities. So this can be really helpful for departments where a number of teachers are teaching to the same thing and they're building activities for the same curriculum. You can create a space, you can invite members to that space, and then give them different permissions, and then they'll be able to add activities into the space here. and we'll get this.
That's amazing. So that's available just in the top tier account. Is that right?
Anyone can join a space on Speakable, any teacher account. The Teacher Pro and the organization accounts can create spaces. That's how we've set it up for now, just to have some controls on the spaces being created, so we can review those. But right now, it's just Teacher Pro and the organization plans that can create.
So do you mean it would be a bit like a Facebook group whereby teachers could share and collaborate with each other? Is that how it would work, or would you have like a limited number of people you could have in a particular space?
There's no limit on it. You can add as many people into it, and it's meant to be flexible. Kind of use it however it fits for you. But yeah, you have some like social media type functionality where you can post resources or primarily like activities.
That's great. So could a teacher who is in that group share a resource, and then another teacher could then copy it to their workspace? Is that one of the functionalities?
Yep, exactly.
Right. That's really useful. That's great, because I think, well, as you know yourself, when teachers share and collaborate with each other, that's when the magic happens, isn't it? That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm a firm believer in the kind of magic of people bouncing ideas off of each other and kind of stimulating each other's creativities with their creations. So I love the idea of having a space to collaborate on those things, and that's a relatively new feature, but we've seen a lot of folks using it in some cool ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we haven't got any more questions yet. I'd encourage everyone to, while Austin is still with us live, to put some more questions to Austin. But it's been a wonderful session, Austin. Thank you so much. And I think we've certainly seen things we haven't seen in other tools here, which is just great. I'll turn my video back on so you can see me. There we are. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of things here that I've not seen in any other tools, which is really exciting. And I think that whole the focus on the speaking practice, that individual practice, is so useful. So I really hope that that Speakable grows and grows and grows, but particularly in Europe, maybe where maybe it's not as well known. I think that's really exciting. Any final points you wanted to make, or any? I don't know if there's someone watching either live right now or the recording who would like to work with you. Would that be something that you'd welcome? Maybe a school would want to do a trial with you and see how it works, that sort of thing. Maybe in the context of the new GCSE, for example, that would be really exciting.
Yes. Anyone that wants to get in touch with us, we're always happy to meet folks. And we got a lot of our features came from working with teachers and getting feedback about what's actually happening in the classroom, because the team building this is spending a lot of time in the code. So we love to hear from users on how we can help them, from everything from here's a feature I'd love to see to here's an issue I'm having with the data privacy in our district.
Excellent.
So anyone that needs help, please feel welcome to reach out to support@speakableapp.com. And if someone's interested in trying this out at their organization, my colleague Santiago runs our free pilot program, and he can kind of walk through that process with anyone that's interested in learning about it and potentially trying it. But we do offer free pilots where you have full support from our team to get everyone set up and running.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Lovely. Oh, and I can see we got the email in the chat. That's brilliant. That's lovely. Thank you so much. It's been such an interesting and refreshing walkthrough. I always love seeing new things, and I've seen lots of new things tonight. So that's really, really exciting. I'm sure likewise people watching either live or the recording will have the same sort of feeling watching this. So I really hope that Speakable expands moving forward, and that you get lots and lots of users. That's wonderful.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. I'd love to do another one, in 6 months' time, etc., and see where we are now. But I'm really excited to see those new features in particular. That's really brilliant, and the fact that you welcome feedback from the community as well is just such a positive approach, I think, to have. That's wonderful. Thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone now for attending this evening, and I'm sure you've all learned a great deal, which is what this is all about. I'd like to again thank Austin from Speakable for giving us such a great walkthrough of all the different features. I'm sure everyone's got a really good handle now on exactly how the tool can be used, and do get in touch if you'd like to know more. Wonderful. So maybe is it time now if we hit stop, and then just to clarify with everyone, Austin will be sending me the recording and I'll be publishing it on my YouTube channel, but it'll probably be, considering the time now in the UK, it'll probably be tomorrow morning now that it'll be published and going live. But yeah, it'd be great to hear further feedback on the socials, and get in touch with Austin if you'd like to know more as well. Great. Thank you. That was great. So